The Fantasmagorium show is proud to present Money, Murder in Minnesota, a retrospective of all things Fargo, don't you know? A new season of Fargo is upon us, the fifth one. This is where I would usually yell, John Hamm, but I would rather say, yay, Juno Temple. The award-winning Coen Brothers executive produced and Noah Hawley run FX series of Fargo is what we are here to talk about. So let's go. Kat is here. I am Scotty R37, and Steve is mixing up some biscuits. How are you, Kat?
All right.
This was worth the wait. Do you want to say spoilers or should I?
You can say spoilers.
Totes spoilers. This show, as of this recording, ended up, it dropped 4 days ago?
3.
Okay, makes sense. And if you haven't seen it, we are doing this weekly. We've sort of set our schedule, and thank you for paying attention to our following along of these epic tales of money, murder, and Minnesota. But yeah, if you're here, we are going to be talking about the recent episodes as they drop, as we are talking about season 5. So yeah, it's spoilers. I don't think we're going to ruin the flavor of the show. I think that we're probably going to give away the plot, but it's serialized drama.
Yeah, and after watching this season premiere of 2 episodes, clearly Noah Hawley wasn't kidding when he says they were going to lean a lot harder into the comedic this season compared to other heavier seasons like seasons 2 or, for my money, granted I haven't seen season 4 yet, but season 3 is the funniest for me so far as this whole season, whereas season 2 I'd say is one of the best seasons of television of any show, period. And season 5, this is for Fargo, definitely leaning into a bit more almost absurdist in a way with what's going on.
Well, you have an interesting perspective on it because I've only seen the movie and season 1. Now We're going to season 5. This is an anthology show. So as we watch, like, season 1 doesn't matter. Right. Really. And
I mean, unless something happens for a crossover, because that sometimes happens in this show where either a character or something will pop up, like the money, for those who already watched season 1, the money from the movie popped up and had a big subplot in season 1.
And there are references to the movie. I think that they're actually doing a good job in both of the premieres that I've seen of each of the seasons that I have seen. Like, they do reference back that you are watching a show in the same tone and vein as the movie. It is sort of tongue-in-cheek, character-driven, but there's crime, there's blood, and adult situations. It was a strange thing for me because I'd been watching this as like a release, like a DVD release.
Yeah.
And so instead of watching it with commercials or watching it on a specific time, I was watching it as you would binge anything on Netflix.
Right.
This time I'm watching it on terrestrial television, and so it's like, you get the warning at the beginning, and it's like this television show contains swearing and nudity and sex and drugs and adult situations, and I'm like, that's awesome. I hadn't seen that warning in a long time. And so I am watching it more as a television show as opposed to a bingeable event.
True. And I like how at all the commercial breaks, their go-to screenshot is just the cows grazing in the field on the farmland. And this season, I mean, it's very, should we just dive right into it? How the show begins?
Yes.
So it begins with a complete
title card.
Oh, that's right. For the first time ever in any of these TV shows or even the movie, it begins with like a dictionary type definition and title for what Minnesota nice is, which basically means being almost aggressively nice and normal and passive, no matter how bad the situation gets.
Yes.
Which basically means you're not being nice. It's a nice way of telling somebody to kind of, fuck off or whatever. And I thought that was odd that he would decide to do that now after 4 seasons of the show and a movie. Especially since they also don't have the whole "this is a true story," the events depicted until much later, after like the prologue, which they've never done before either. Like in every episode, that's how it always begins, and then you have your title card. Whereas this just had the definition, and then it said Fargo. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is new. So that I'm not quite sure yet why he decided to do that. Maybe it'll be evident as we watch, or maybe enough people were bugging him about it off screen, in between seasons, that he just decided to just, I'm just going to throw this up there so people know what I'm talking about or what that means.
Well, how long has it been since the end of the last one?
That ended November 29th, 2020. So 3 years.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, but
and
even
before,
for
obvious reasons. Right,
but there was also a near 3.5 year passage of time between the end of season 3 and the start of season 4.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So because the first season was April through June 2014. Season 2 was October through December 2015. Season 3 was April through June 2017, and season 4 was late September through late November 2020. And this is scheduled to go from this week, November 2023, through mid-January 2024.
And the reason that I bring it up is because it really kicked into gear. Like, it does start off with Yes and the song Squares. Is it Squares or Square?
I'm not sure.
I've seen all good people on the way and then they're satisfied. That song. It's about chess. Anyway, you start off in a harvest festival meeting in a local school. You discover it's a school. It looks like a theater. And I thought they were all dancing until I realized that no, they were all beating the crap out of each other. No idea what precipitated that particular scuffle.
Yeah, but it's like that very white trash thing you've seen happen a lot, where it's either parents fighting in a youth soccer game, or like this in case of PTA meeting getting out of control and everybody's just like throwing chairs and beating each other up. It's like when I first watched it, I'm like, what is this meeting? It's like, what's going on? And we see that our protagonist played by Juno Temple. What's her name?
Dorothy.
Dot. Yes, she's arrested because she accidentally sprays pepper spray at a cop.
Uses a stun gun.
It's been a few days, so
no, me too.
Seized and taken to the police station, and they take a mugshot, which becomes important later. But then she gets, post bail, goes home, and we see that she's married to this very hapless, kind of very innocent, simple guy who works at a car dealership, and he happens to be the son of this super rich. He's from a very rich family, very well off. The matriarch, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, she's like this no bullshit woman. And for her Christmas photo, she wants everybody posing with guns to look all tough. And we have Dave Foley, who I was excited to see here as one of the brothers there.
And it's like brother. He's a lawyer.
The lawyer. I'm sorry, the lawyer. So the lawyers, he's there as their lawyer, which I thought was odd that they have the lawyer there at this big holiday dinner guy. It's like, okay. And it becomes this and you can see how so the son is definitely, I wouldn't say he's the black sheep of the family, but he's definitely not in with the rest of this crowd. It doesn't seem to be his jive. And his wife,
who he reminded me of? Milos Stavros.
Really?
No, his son, Dimitri.
Oh. Yeah.
He's
Dimitri.
He's like the idiot son of this very successful, and it's one of the things that so far, again, I'm just looking at this from the opening, and I'll stop saying that, from the opening of the series, is that you have someone who is hapless, you have someone who is determined, for good or ill, you have someone who is in power, and then there's law enforcement. And it's interesting just to have that. Also, with Jennifer Jason Leigh, praise, bless, all the jazz to her soul. Have you ever seen the Hudsucker Proxy?
No.
The Hudsucker Proxy is a Coen Brothers movie about Tim Robbins inventing the hula hoop. And Jennifer Jason Leigh is in it, and she is affecting the same accent. She's got that East Coast sort of New England accent. It's really, well, we're going to have to take care of this kid, I tell you. And that kind of, and it's not like, she doesn't have a Minnesota accent.
Right.
So I just found it very interesting. There are echoes of Coen throughout these 2 episodes that are amazing. But sorry.
And so eventually the conversation at the dinner table comes around to, oh, what are you guys up to? You know, Wayne and Dot. And she's talking about how they're trying to figure out how they can raise money for the library to add more, you know, horror books and thriller books for the kids. And of course, Lorraine, the Jennifer Jason Leigh character, is like, wait, why don't you just write some, you know, say, or donate money, like, you know, give money. He's like, well, we don't have the money. And she's like, oh, come on, just ask the lawyer here. He can give you some. Don't be so, you know, sheepish about it. And it's like, you totally get just how separate their whole lives are, like their whole worldview and how they do things. It is completely,
hey,
that's what yes, hello, Daniel's Hot Topics. And that's what I took away from this whole somewhat ridiculous dinner meeting with the kids. And then it's not long afterwards that she goes home, husband goes to work, and she gets kidnapped.
There is a character that I wanted to discuss was Scotty, their daughter.
Yeah.
This story takes place in 2019. So it's a fairly recent tale. People have cell phones and what jazz. But there is an element of progressivism because Scotty is sort of represented as being a young, let's say, sexually ambiguous person.
Mm.
Scotty is a woman who is detracted by her grandmother for dressing like a boy. Jennifer Jason Leigh's character calls the granddaughter a cross-dresser at the Christmas photo. So and it's interesting. It just in terms of the topics of conversation and how when we do crash into Roy Tillman, how it is sort of ideologically diverse as a story.
Yeah, and we actually first get a very brief glimpse of him when everybody's, you know, they do the whole sitting around the dinner table at the Lyon family manor, and then it cuts to his family, and they're sitting at this really long table, like picnic table outside on the ranch, and he's sitting there praying, and they're really religious, and it's like, oh, I wonder what this is gonna gonna mean. And then I believe it's after that we finally get the title, and the events took place in Minnesota, you know, 2019. So they go home, and the next morning the wife is home by herself, and they take shots directly from the movie where she's sitting on the couch watching TV, and this guy walks up. At first, I wasn't sure if it was a guy or not because he's wearing like a skirt, and he's got a ski mask on. He's kind of peering through the windows. But unlike in the movie where the woman just sits there like an idiot and doesn't do anything and watches him break through, when the guy comes through the glass door, she's missing. And he has a partner who comes in also in a ski mask, and it turns out she's a lot more formidable than they were anticipating. She uses she lures him upstairs, and what is it that she uses to spray the fire to burn the first guy's?
It's a lighter and any aerosol can. I don't know what was in the aerosol can, but the first time I ever saw that done, live and let die, Cat. Live and let die when James Bond kills the snake.
And she does this to one of the kidnappers, the dopier one, and
in the face.
Right in the face while he's still wearing the ski mask. So it's like getting all like melted to his face or whatnot.
It's polyester.
And she ends up trying to flee from the other guy but she trips and falls down the stairs and is seemingly unconscious. And so the second kidnapper with the skirt comes downstairs and then she turns out she was faking being unconscious and strikes him upside the face with a hockey,
Hockey skate.
ice hockey skate, and just cuts his face open. And she tries to flee, but gets cornered in the kitchen. And this time the other dopes come downstairs, and now they've both taken off their ski masks, and they don't care about whether she sees them or not. And they're like really pissed off.
It was ominous. It was like, we got to take her alive, but no one said we have to take her with her teeth.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, geez. And then
they
do eventually take, but then that's where the scene kind of ends, and we don't get to see how it happens. We just cut to the father, Wayne, coming home with the daughter, Scotty, and he sees that the door's wide open, and he tells Scotty to check the car to see if he left his briefcase there. And he goes inside, he finds all the blood, he finds the fracas, he calls the cops, and this is where we meet who I suspect to be one of our main other protagonists of the show, probably. Yes. Her name is her character name is Indira Olmsted, played by Richa Morjani. Oh, and I should say this is taking place in Scandia, which is eastern Minnesota, like right where the Minnesota like curves down towards the bottom. It's like right there on the border of Wisconsin. And she shows up at the house, and he's like, "Oh, there was looks like something caught fire upstairs. I didn't do it." Am I the only one? Yeah, exactly. I wanted to see him come back. I mean, it wouldn't have been far-fetched in the Roger Moore movies, right?
You're not the only one. Thank you.
So the cops process the crime scene, and they end up discovering that it's definitely male blood and not hers. So they know that something bizarre happened here, but we don't know what. Then we cut back to her and the kidnappers, who once again are not masked or anything at all. They're just, because she's already seen them, so they don't care. One of them is the one who was wearing the skirt, played by actor Sam Spruill. His character's name is.
Where do I know him from?
His name is Ole Munch. He is from Taken 3, Snow White and the Huntsman, and Swarm and Doctor Who Flux.
You know, it's probably
he also appeared in the Hurt Locker.
Snow White.
I don't know if it's just me, but I thought something about his face. I kept thinking Richard E. Grant, but I knew that obviously wasn't him. But very vaguely, I kept thinking that every time I saw him, because I've never seen this guy, or at least I don't remember seeing this guy before. I know I've seen some of the things he's been in, though. And so they're driving down the road.
Did we ever get closure on the deaf guy from season 1?
I'm not gonna say, because you haven't seen. I'm not gonna say. We didn't get closure in season 1.
Not in season 1. Not in season 1.
Well, not in season 1. We didn't. So they're driving down the road, and at first I thought, from how casual she's being in the back seat with just her hands zip tied, that did she stage this? Was she a part? Like, no, she couldn't have staged it. It was violent and all of that. Hey guys, we're not a bank.
We're not a bank, Jerry.
Yeah. So they're driving down the road, and they get pulled over by state troopers. They shoot one of them dead. The other gets shot in the leg, and she takes advantage of the fracas to flee. And they both the kidnappers track her, as does the surviving officer, who is another one of our main protagonists from the series, I would guess, from seeing all the promos, who's played by, what's the guy's name? His name is... The actor's name is Lamorne Morris, and he plays Whit Farr, everyman North Dakota State Trooper who has a strange run-in with Dot. Yeah, so they go to so he and Dot are the first ones to show up at the gas station, and she runs to hide there, and he comes in there and asks the guy behind the counter for a first aid kit or something, and he's like, "You have anything?" He's like, "I don't know, we have something in the back," and he's not really being very helpful, and he tells him to hide. One of the kidnappers shows up. Ole comes through the front door. Whereas the other guy, she goes to hide in the back bathroom and sees that one of the windows is broken. And she realizes that the dopier one is hiding in the bathroom stall. But once Ole comes through the front door of the gas station, yeah.
Sorry, I just have to do one thing to reset the echoing. That's all. And that guy's all... No, still echoing. Oh, no, I should be good now.
So once Ole comes in through the front of the gas station, he's got like an assault rifle. And he opens fire, and that causes the guy in the bathroom to freak out, like thinking something's going on. Yeah, with a whole machine gun. That causes the guy in the bathroom to freak out and move forward, but he slips, or she hits him, or she does something. I can't remember because it's been a few days.
Well, okay, so he got the flamethrower to the face, and
Right.
one of his eyes is sealed shut. He's lost a lot of hair, and when they go in, he's basically trying to clean himself out in the bathroom. He's covering the back entrance because it's the only place. Dot knows because she's like, go to the bathroom. There will be a window in there. The cop is like, good idea. Like, she is owning not only the state trooper, she is getting away from the kidnappers. She's oh my god, what is it? Long Kiss Goodnight. She is Gina Davis from Long Kiss Goodnight, but without the amnesia. She just knows what to do. And so she gets back there. She's dropping ice on the ground. She's found those little, you break and they glow sticks, not for a rave, but for, on side of the road help. And then when he sort of is alerted to the situation by the machine gun, he starts running. She like bounces the door off of him. He slips on the floor and bangs his head on the toilet. And now he's dead. He's dead.
No, that was funny that all of his blood is draining into the toilet, which was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Which was fitting. And then I remember when the cop asked the guy behind the counter, the clerk, what he has for in terms of weapons. He's like, well, I have an air horn. You push it and it makes a loud sound. He's like, just hide behind there. So when Old Munch walks in there and Dot's hiding in the bathroom and has just killed the other guy, the cop is hiding in one of the aisles and he's standing there looking around ominously, and out of the blue, the dumbass clerk just jumps up from he doesn't even get up right in his ear. He's just standing back there and he blows the air horn, and Old doesn't even turn to look. He just raises the gun and fires and kills him. It was like so funny.
Doesn't even look.
Like, what did you expect to do with the damn air horn? But as Old is looking around, he doesn't notice that Dot has snuck out of the bathroom, and she whacks him upside the head with the shovel.
Yeah.
And she thinks that he's down and out for the count, so she goes to help the cop, helping bandage up his wounds. And he's like, "Oh, I'll put in a good word for you," and blah blah blah. And he starts hobbling towards the front of the store to greet her, and not only is she gone, but Old Munch is gone as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Huh?" And then the backup finally shows up to help them. Meanwhile, the husband has to tell his mother what has happened, and he's like,
with Dave Foley. Did we say Dave Foley was the lawyer?
The lawyer, yeah.
All right. Well, he's doing amazing. It's always great to see Dave Foley. I love Dave Foley.
Yeah. So he goes to tell his mom about the kidnapping. He's like, "What do you mean she kind of got kidnapped?" And he kind of sheepishly describes what's going on. And she's smart, so she's immediately suspicious about this, as to what exactly it means. Like, was there a ransom note and paying? And it's like, well, we have the domestic insurance and foreign insurance for kidnappings to be able to pay for it. And they're like, oh, I guess we'll wait a couple days. We'll see what happens. And at first, they're not really, the family isn't really, and the lawyer aren't really concerned about it. But the next morning, when Dot, like early hours of the morning, when Dot just shows back up, which I'm not sure how she did this, because according to this, because the Whit Farr, the guy who got injured in the state trooper who survived at the gas station, he's a North Dakota state trooper. She got kidnapped from Scandia, which is in eastern Minnesota on the border of Wisconsin. So somehow in the same night, she managed to get all the way across the state of Minnesota back to her house at, like, what was it, 4:30 or 5:30 in the morning to start making breakfast. So that was a little sketchy. Granted, they didn't say what time of year it was, so maybe it got dark real early and it was late afternoon, but even she must have caught a bus or something. There's no way she could have just, like, she says, oh, I just went out for a walk and walked back. It's like, how exactly, it's not really established how she got all the way back home to Scandia.
Can I posit something for this?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a situation, you know how you live in California, I live in near Toronto, and when you watch a movie, and then, it's like, well, it would take you approximately an hour and a half to get from that part to that part. So it doesn't make any sense at all. I think that they're maybe banking on the fact that you don't know the distances between North Dakota and Minnesota.
Yeah, because, I mean, they are right next to each other, but this particular city is way over on the Wisconsin border, not the North Dakota border. So, like,
yeah,
I think you're right. They're probably counting on that.
You just don't know the geography, but you're aware of everything that's going on.
And that was what all that happens in the first episode. And so for the
Yeah.
first
Well,
episode, I'm like,
yeah. And wait, at the end, Wayne, he has just told their daughter that mom, we're gonna get her back. We're gonna get her back. And he finally rests after being basically
all right, and she
quite
comes home.
frightened into petrification. And he finally sits down, takes off his glasses, and he hears someone come into the house. He doesn't know that it's her. We do. She's been walking on broken glass, so there are bloody footprints. He's terrified because he's a milquetoast guy. And he goes and he's about to brain her with like a Liberty Bell or something.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, no, everything's okay. You know, I just went to go clear my head. I had a heck of a day. Like it's in, and she plays it off as if nothing, except she does have this obsessive compulsive disorder in terms of focusing herself. I think we're going to find out what's going on with that. Because I think even when she was in the fill station heist or siege, the first thing she did to focus was she went straight to the breakfast aisle and she stared at the Bisquick.
I think that was because, like, she and her daughter mentioned that she was going to make her pancakes the next day. And I think it's because she might be nervous because we don't know this yet, but she already has a very good idea of what this is about.
Yes.
And she's really nervous that this is finally caught up with her, which is why she's, nervously just doing that, So I'm not sure if it's just general OCD or if it's just her kind of freaking out.
Makes sense.
So she's kind of doing that. And so for the first episode, I thought this was very well paced. They didn't even set up all the main characters yet, not even all the major players. And it was really suspenseful. It was really funny, very action packed. And it's like, wow, I'm in. It's like, let's see where this goes. And then we get arguably one of the funniest openings I've seen in a Fargo episode, where we begin with John Hamm giving a voiceover that is clearly initially copying verbatim Tommy Lee Jones's monologue that begins "No Country for Old Men," where you see just the montage of the landscape. It's like, oh, sheriff of this county when I was 25 years old. Hard to believe. My granddaddy was one. And he goes on talking about this, and eventually he just talks about things like, oh, a man's wife is his property forever, and she will always be loyal to him and work for him just as sure as water runs downhill. And we learn that he is basically super religious. He's he very much believes that, like, Old Testament type guy. And he has a huge billboard that says, elect Roy Tillman for sheriff. And it's at the end of this hilarious monologue, we see that he's actually saying this to a young couple in a diner. And it's funny because there's all these other people in the diner who aren't reacting to it. The girl is like covered in bruises, and the guy is just sitting next to her, and it's obvious that he beat her up. And you think the sheriff is there to help her, and then he has his deputy sneak up behind the guy and put him in like a headlock. And again, nobody else in the diner is even responding to this or watching it. And the sheriff is actually criticizing her, asking if she was giving him like backsass or lip, and you could tell he would have just been fine with it if that's what happened, even though she's got significant like strangulation bruises and stuff all over her. And she explains that wasn't really what was going on, and then he just kind of accepts it.
And if anybody is in the chat, and I am still echoing, and this audio has been all for naught, please let me know. If this has just been an annoyance for everyone, we appreciate it if you would let us know. And it is because, like, John Hamm's character in the introduction was, I think, was absolutely right. I missed it. I did feel that it was Coen Brothers-esque. But yeah, you're right. It's lifted directly. Well, it's referenced heavily from in regards to No Country for Old Men. And when it started, again, I am biased towards John Hamm, and I think he is going to be a villain. In this, obviously, he's going to be a villain.
I looked up what his official title is, and it's not what I thought it was. he's not just a sheriff. He is what is called he's the Stark County constitutional sheriff, which it's a political organization. I'm going to read this directly off the definition of what they are. It's a political organization of local police officials in the United States who contend that federal and state government authorities are subordinate to the local authority of county sheriffs and police. Self-described constitutional sheriffs assert that they are the supreme legal authority with the power and duty to defy or disregard laws they regard as unconstitutional. As a result, they may sometimes be referred to as sovereign sheriffs. The movement is related to previous nullification and interposition notions and promotes such efforts. It's been described as far right by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they have a very small membership of only about 400. I guess, let's see, how old was that? That was 2020. They had a lot higher earlier. And yeah, so it's very, very much, that Old Testament super, very far right, woman's place is in the kitchen. Oh, we're not going to say bullshit.
I wouldn't say Old Testament. I would say evangelical Christian.
Yeah, I guess. But in terms of, remember, there's a scene where FBI agents show up and ask him why he's not enforcing the laws. And
I remember seeing John Hamm's ass. Yes.
Yeah, he's sitting in his hot tub. And at first I thought there was like a glistening reflection, but no, he has nipple piercings. And I was like, oh my God. And he's trying to justify it by talking about all these absurdist laws, like, North Dakota, it's illegal for a horse to sit in a bathtub. And he's just not wanting to answer it. And then he decides to intimidate them by standing up naked out of the hot tub. And the female agent's like, oh God, what are you doing? And he gets his towel even has his name, Roy Tillman, with his sheriff's badge as he's walking away. And
I got Lord Summerisle-esque vibes off of him. This is my fiefdom, and this is where I am king. I do not respect your authority over me, and everyone here voted for me. So it is democracy, which America believes in. God gave democracy to America, and I enforce the things that are right and wrong. And your laws, they mean less than nothing to me, because I can't even have two hands of poker in the local tavern.
Well, put it this way: having seen season 1, I mean, the Dimitri Milos was such a minor character, I wouldn't really put him on high with this, but given the Kirsten Dunst character in season 2 and the Michael Stuhlbarg character in season 3, I still think John Hamm takes the cake as quite possibly being the most ridiculous character we've seen in this series, because of just how, the way he just goes about it. And we find out that the deal is that the kidnapper comes back to him, the surviving kidnapper, and we find out that Dot was not his ex-wife but his wife. And he firmly believes in the old saying, for rich or for poor, in sickness and in health, for better or worse. And if you desert me, you owe me. It's time to pay the piper, he says. You have to come back and be my wife and all the things I expect you to do. And clearly she, I got shot in the face. I got shot in the face. And clearly she must not have liked that lifestyle of just being basically treated as his property, and I guess she decided to run away at some point. And so the idea that he is, as a sheriff, he's not just going on about democracy and all that, because he's hiring kidnappers to go kidnap this lady and just take her away. It's like, well, what do you expect is going to happen? If she ran away from you the first time, are you going to keep her locked up in the barn? I mean, it's kind of dark, and it is kind of ridiculous, his sense of entitlement, and the whole nipple piercings and the ego with the towel and all the Roy Tillman stuff, and how he has this whole posse at the farm who are not just hired hands. You could tell they firmly believe in him and his son.
They would kill for him. They were about to. They were going to kill the one of the kidnappers who had been bested by Dot, and the son, who I was very pleased to learn that you had never seen any of that there Stranger Things, but apparently the son of John Hamm in this particular show is one of the lads from that there Stranger Things.
Joe Keery. His character name is Gator Tillman. Gator. It's like, that's kind of all you need to know. He's pretty dim, and and he's totally gung ho on this whole mission. But the strange thing about the kidnapper is, when Old Munch comes back, he's complaining that you didn't tell us she had all these skills, which
Of course.
it really wasn't skills. It was kind of easy. And he expects to not only be paid the original fee for which is a fee for completing the job, but also pain and suffering for a job he didn't even complete.
I don't think he was asking for the money of a completed job. I think he was renegotiating how much he was going to be paid to get the girl. And also, I think he was saying, you have to pay me for what happened because you didn't tell me who I was going after. I'll get her. I think he still says, I will get her, but you didn't tell me I was going after this kind of a bitch.
Yeah, and then when they take him out back to shoot him, he's more skilled than they are because they're dopey.
Yep.
Like a lot of these militia types
Well,
are. They're not very skilled. Yeah, but like a lot of these militia types are, they're not really that skilled, and they're all talk and no, they can't really back it up. And so he easily guns these guys down and disappears, much to Roy's chagrin. And it's like, oh, geez, we're in trouble. But then we have bigger trouble back in Scandia. And this, by the way, where Roy Tillman is, Stark County, is like in western North Dakota. So this is like a big distance now. But back in Scandia,
you got to see the episode just for the vistas. Like it reminded me of an episode of what's that Kevin Costner show, Yellowstone? I was like, this is what Yellowstone is done like by a supervillain. Like this is what evil misogynistic Yellowstone is. And some would argue that Yellowstone is evil and misogynistic. So what are you going to do?
And we find out that back in Scandia, there's trouble brewing because now Lorraine, Wayne's mother, thinks that Dot staged the kidnapping. Because when Wayne says, oh, yeah, she's back. She just said she went on a walk. And it's like, but you told us the cops said the blood was of a man's blood and there was burn, all this upset. Like, what do you mean she just went for a walk? And Wayne and Wayne isn't an idiot either. He kept pressing her on it, but he could tell it was bothering her. So he kind of let it go. Like he didn't. Like he just kind of, at first he kept asking, because remember, he was pushing her kind of hard on. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, what's going on? And then he just kind of backed off. But, and now after sleeping on it, I guess he's just willing to accept that it was just her going on a walk. Whereas Lorraine is now suspicious that maybe she staged her own kidnapping to extort the family and decides to go to their house while Wayne's at work and talks with, and she talks with Dot. And she's basically offering to buy her out and to leave the family. And she didn't just come alone. She came with this guy, it's
like her chief of security. It's fine.
Yeah, and he's like, guy. There's a show me your dolls. And she's like, oh, okay.
No. Scotty says, I don't have dolls. I'm into ninjas. And
that's right,
so
ninjas.
The manservant, like the odd job, says, I'll show you how a true Jedi fights. And or something like that, like come young Skywalker, I'll show you how a true ninja fights. And it's like, you're mixing your fucking metaphors, you dummy. Anyway, so they go away and Dot unleashes.
Ooh, that was such a good scene,
wasn't it? Though it was amazing.
It was great. And she just totally holds her own and just totally burns.
So what does she say?
I can't remember exactly.
I remember.
That's good. Say it.
Bitch, I have clawed my way through 6 levels of hell just to get what I have. And I will tell you right now, if you try and take it away from me, I will fucking kill you. This is a paraphrase. The first part I got pretty good, but it goes along these lines and says, so if you want to come at me, give it a go. Give it a go.
I love how she says it so calmly.
And then she stops and she says, well, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, the great bit. One of the best bits of Minnesota Nice in the whole series, by the way. That was so good.
Dinner Sunday, I'll bring my blue salad.
Yeah, and so she decides, Lorraine decides to respond to this by leaving the house and going home and sending the lawyer over to Wayne's job, which is, I believe, a Kia dealership. And he goes to talk
Koreans make cars now.
Yeah, and they're talking to him on the mother's talking to him on the speakerphone about what's going on and sharing her suspicions with her son, who's like, oh, this can't really be, and he's being and she thinks he's being too ridiculous for just ignoring all the red flags. So she says to the lawyer, "Slap my son," and he's like, "What?" And even Wayne's like, "What?" She's like, "Well, I'm not there to do it for myself, so you do it." And then Wayne's like, "No," and the lawyer pauses, and you don't think he's gonna do it, but then Wayne's like, "No," and he just totally slaps him across.
I thought he was gonna say something like "sorry." It's like, oh my god, it was like in Tropic Thunder when they were like, punch this guy in the face, and he's like, sorry. But no, Dave Foley is just like,
No, his name
what?
is Fish Graves.
So Fish is like, really? And she says, really? And not even like, I was expecting at least take off your glasses. Nope.
Right.
Just pow. It was amazing.
And so her message to the son is basically, get your house in order and get to the bottom of this shit, because I'm not going to stand for it.
Right.
And they haven't mentioned why, but they made a deliberate choice for the Danish Graves character to wear an eye patch.
Yes.
Maybe they'll address it at some point, but
hopefully, or not. I'm okay with the mystery.
So meanwhile, Indira, the cop who first investigated the home invasion, kidnapping, or whatever it was, goes to visit Whit Farr, who the state trooper who's been shot, and he's recovering in the hospital. And she's talking about how they found some unknown blood, and she's investigating this kidnapping, and they think it might have a tie to the blood that was at the gas station, and that the incidents being so close, and the description of the lady, that okay, we might have a match here. And she's brought the photo of like the mugshot from her being arrested the other day at the PTA meeting on her phone. And that's when Gator Tillman walks in, and he's got his whole deputy outfit on with gears. He's like, initially he's polite to Whit because he's like, oh, a fellow officer of the law, and trying to be like nice about it. And so Indira's like, oh, sure. And she shares the phone to let him look at the picture. And he very coyly just deletes the photograph after seeing that it's definitely her. And he hands it, like, oh, geez, me and technology. I think I actually deleted it. And she immediately takes the fall herself, saying, oh, shoot, it's my fault for just taking the one copy.
It's 2019. It's not like she's going to be able to, like, she'll be able to go and download the photo again.
Right. And
it's not gone forever.
And I'm assuming that because they don't really address distances, that she probably drove out here. Well, you can go back to your squad car, download the photo again, or just call the department and email it. It's not that difficult.
It's 2019. It's not that
so that didn't make sense, but he leaves basically praising him, oh, good day, officer, kind of thing. And he goes out to his thugs out in the alley and gets in the truck. He's like, oh, that was all too easy. And I'm like, these guys are just like, I just wonder where they think how this is going to end up. And they take off and go to the same gas station, it looks like, maybe. And they're filling up.
Exactly the same.
And they're filling up
the cardboard on the wall, on the doors and windows. There's a guy who's leaving the gas station, but he can't see who's on the other side. And Gator gets all pissed because it bumps his broken arm from Gustav, the kidnapped man.
Yeah, from Ol Munch.
Ol Munch. I should write that down.
And so Gator goes inside to pay for the gas, and his partner, who's standing outside leaning against the car waiting for the gas to fill up, is kind of, dilly-dallying, not paying attention. Then all of a sudden, as the camera is slowly zooming in on him, it's like, what's this about? Old Munch just comes out of nowhere, knifes the guy like right in the throat, and kills him. Yeah. And he does something around the back of the car that we can't see. And then when Gator comes back out, he sees his buddy lying dead behind the car with a knife in his chest with a note demanding, pay me my money.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, geez.
It never shows you what the note says.
It doesn't, but I'm getting that's probably the message that he's sending. He's like, hey, man,
I don't even know if it's about money. I think it's more about the fact that maybe the money. It's usually
I think in the spirit of how they spoofed No Country for Old Men in the beginning. It's like when Sugar took offense to the fact that his employers hired competition. And he's like, oh, you don't do that. You pick the one right tool. He's like, look, just because it's screwed up now doesn't mean. I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to finish this job. Yeah. And that might be it. Even though he does seem a little kind of definitely not. He does not give off Anton Chigurh vibes at all, even though he's still skilled.
But again, I think he gives off more of the deaf guy vibes. Or maybe even Peter Stormare from the movie. What if Peter Stormare from the movie had been overwhelmed?
Well, we do see that in the promos in the trailer where you see him running out of the back of the house with an axe and somebody turning around. We don't know who it is. Like Steve Buscemi go, ah, like that with their hands, like they're about recreating the shot where, you know, he hits the guy with the axe.
Right.
So we'll see who that is later on.
This is so entertaining. This is so entertaining just to be able to watch it in real time with you. Like, again, I apologize for the spoilers, and yet I don't give a fuck. But this is like the water cooler. I hope that people will find this to be, you know, you want to hang out and watch Fargo with us? It's like a book club.
Yeah, I've been seeing
it's on Tuesdays. We do this on Thursdays, usually.
I found the official hashtag for it that I added to our video, so that's good.
Oh, and, you got it. Fargo FX?
Yes. And I've been seeing a lot of trailers for it in other TV stations, so they are putting out a lot of promotion, which is good. So I like how they've been setting all this up. You have all these disparate characters, and I'm just imagining, like, who is going to end up being the primary antagonist? Will it be John Hamm?
It's John Hamm.
Roy Tillman, or will it be, because I get the sense that Lorraine Lyon is not just some rich lady just uses money to solve everything. I suspect she's probably might have a bit of the fiendishness of the Widow Goldfarb from season 3 mixed with a bit of Fargo from season 3. Like, there's something else more to her.
You're talking about people that I've never met.
That's true, but that's what I'm thinking about. And so I'm thinking this is going to be, it's going to start as a mess over a fight over Dot. And I think it's going to become a fight between Lorraine and Roy. Like, you have the super rich,
that'd be awesome.
The super rich connected people connected with government, whereas he's very like anti-political government, almost militia type. I think that's what this is going to become. And so,
but Lorraine hates government. The less civil servants involved, the better. That we don't even need them getting involved in people's private businesses.
I mean, like government, like she has the ability to skirt it and get around it, or even use it if she wants to.
Well, and she's tight with the governor or attorney general.
That's what I mean. She's tight with like certain state government people, whereas Roy, yeah, he's popular in the county, but he doesn't. I don't get the sense that he's like super filthy rich. Like, the people who were at his farm were people who clearly liked him. They didn't strike me as just random henchmen as so much as ranch hands who were just cool with them.
So even the lady who gives Roy the coffee that he splashes in the abuser's face, she gives him coffee and then comes back to refill his cup. Like,
so he has a different type of power. Everybody likes him in this community, and he feels like he's God or king of the mountain, you know, king of the hill. But she actually has like legit power to potentially wield. Right. So I'm thinking that this is going to be like a battle of wills between them, with Dot as like the hot potato going back and forth.
That's interesting. I like this idea. Holly, I know you already wrote it. It's already filmed, but I hope Kat's right.
And I assume that this will be available with season 4. I was able to purchase it digitally after a couple weeks, so then I can watch it like at my leisure, even though I didn't get around to it. So I hope that'll be the case with season 5, so I can watch these episodes right before we record, so I can better remember the beat for beat.
No, you did great. That was amazing. You did fantastic, man.
Yeah. And plus on TV and FX has a gajillion commercials, and it was a bit annoying. I
do enjoy seeing ads for, you know, tattoo shows.
Oh, it's not that I didn't like the commercials because there were a lot for the sake of being a lot. It just meant the show would be on for like 3 or 4 minutes commercial, 4 or 5 minute commercial, and it was like breaking up. Like, it was getting to be a bit much for momentum and pacing, but it still was a very exciting double bill to kick off. And I was surprised that the second episode just ended on Gator kind of looking around, wondering who it was. Like, usually the episodes.
Well, we did miss one big thing. So after Lorraine left and Dot was left at home with Scotty, they made a Home Alone house.
Oh, right, they did. And then when they like rig a sledgehammer to smash somebody's head in if they come through the front door, they electrify the windows.
They put broken glass on door handles.
Yeah, it's like Skyfall, the TV show now.
Yeah.
When Wayne comes home, for a second when he sees the pin, I thought he was going to pull it for a second. I'm like, oh, don't. And he comes in.
He was going to die.
It's like, what is this all about? She's like, security. It's like, security from what? I thought you said you just went on a walk. And she's like, oh, well, you know, our home security kind of like figured we could just up it a little bit. And he's like, and he's reaching for the window. He's like, oh, don't touch it. It's electrified. He's like, do we really need that?
Maybe we could get a gun. And then Dot is like, now you're thinking.
And he's like, why are you making and he's like, Scotty, honey, why are you making like a zombie killer bat with all the nails being?
A man walks home. He finds a baseball bat in a vice grip off of his kitchen counter. His daughter is pounding nails into the baseball bat, obviously to be swung at people. Why are you making a zombie bat?
And then she's like, after Dot tells him, oh, it's just fine, it's for the home security, she's like, come on, Scotty, let's go trap your, booby trap your room.
Can we do my room next? And she's like, oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
It's insane. It is that Minnesota nice. And I think that's the reason why it was put in the title card of the first episode, is because, like, when Dot is confronted and told to go away, she obviously loves Wayne. She obviously loves Scotty. She wants what she has. And she has said, and one of the first lines in the first episode, you don't get between a mama bear and her cub, but it's also what Indira says. Lions live in a group and they're called pride. Like, there is so much. Like, I enjoy it very much. I read a review that said that it was too referential to the original movie. I don't think it was. I thought it was the perfect amount of Easter eggs and tone. There is a moment when they go to the Kia dealership and there is an announcement over the public speaker that says, and don't forget, we got a deal on Glow Coat. It's a heck of a deal, which is exactly what Lundegaard says. And I love it as a Coen Brothers cornucopia, but also in its own way, it has all of the same feeling. And I haven't seen 3 of the seasons. I'm just going into the 5th. I've seen the first. I don't know what happened in 2, 3, and 4. But like this, it just feels like a Coen Brothers miniseries. And the fact that they keep signing off on it, I think that they're doing a good job.
Yeah, and I like that after Noah Hawley in the press junket for season 4 was talking very much like it was the end of the series, that he was so revitalized by season 5 that he just became excited. He's like, oh, now I'm going to tell all sorts of more stories in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, we're going for it. And 90s. And so it's like, great, we could have this series going on for a long time, because I like you said, series that end in a reasonable amount of time that tells a complete story. And even if there are plot threads lingering, like we saw with season 1 with Milos Stavros and the deaf hitman, Mr. Wrench, it still felt like an endearing, engaging story that was worth telling. And so I love that they're continuing the show. This definitely does seem the more comedic vibe, and we'll see where it goes. But I am quite excited how this is going to turn out. And it seems like this might be the first season which will be spending the most amount of time in North Dakota, because Roy Tillman is a sheriff in North Dakota. So, unlike all the other shows which barely have any scenes set there. So.
Well,
even though it's nowhere near Fargo.
Yeah, but I like that the FBI agents, and I'm sure we'll be getting to know them a little bit more. They're down from, aren't they down from Fargo?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I need from this show. As long as Fargo is the center of the universe, I don't care if it's in Minnesota or North Dakota. I like how the show started off with Minnesota nice. I know that it's Fargo. It's always been about that. The references, the characterization, the humor, the music, like this is, I'm really enjoying it. It's I'm gonna see where the hell this plays, like where this show goes.
Did they say how the Lion family got all their money? Like what they do? Like what's their business? I
don't recall. No.
Because I'm wondering that this is the second season set after season 1. If maybe they were able to cash in on the complete annihilation of the Fargo crime syndicate in season 1 in some way, because that doesn't
find out.
3.
Like, I'm assuming we're gonna get a flashback about Dot.
Oh, for sure. We're going to find out, or if not a flashback, we will find out more. So,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah.
I'm pretty, yeah. And how, like, even how I'm sure it will blend into how she and Wayne met. Like, Lorraine is disapproving of Dot to begin
And that
with,
is
if
such
that
a,
is her real name.
that's another thing to dive into. That's such polar opposite guys. To be dating and getting to marry a guy like Roy Tillman and then go off and marry and have a kid with, with David Rysdal's character, Wayne Lyon. It's like, and since we don't know about Dot and she has these skills, did she chase Wayne for the money and just ended up falling in love and just doing that instead? And it begs the
No,
question, what happened to was Roy previously married? Because he seems so righteous and religious. And it's like, well, clearly Gator's too old to be like his son from, because Juno Temple's only like in her 20 or 30, I think I would say. Whereas Gator is like, the actor playing him is like in his 20s, so it's not like he is their, Roy and Dot's son.
I don't
So,
think so.
so is Roy a hypocrite who, would have cheated on his wife in the past and just, gotten some random chick knocked up, or was he previously married and something may have happened there? So
my
that's
idea about it is because there is imagery of Roy Tillman through Dot. Like, you do see it as like memories of Roy through Dot trying to go to sleep, or after she's beaten up by the kidnappers, she's assessing her wounds and she's remembering Roy. And so, like, my idea of her relationship with Wayne as opposed to Roy is that Roy, he's a biblical husband.
that's
And
why I was mentioning that he's Old Testament. Like, oh, I'm gonna beat
yeah,
my
but I
wife.
don't.
No, not in the sense like some, drunk deadbeat wife beater on the weekend watching football. I mean, like, like he's the type of guy who thinks you're going to do exactly when I say. When I say I'm going to control everything about you, and you're my property, and if you deviate in any way, I'm going to, hit you or whatever, beat you. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Like he's Old Testament. Like I'm going to go Old Testament on your, like that kind of
I
thing.
don't know. Okay, fine, sure. Like, I agree with your assessment. I just don't know. Is that what Old Testament? I'm not Old Testament then.
Well, that's what people when they say like in movies.
Have
Oh,
you
I'm
ever
about to go Old
beaten one of
Testament on
your
your ass.
partners?
No, what I'm saying is like the big difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament is that the Old Testament is what had all the sadistic things in it, like the Book of Leviticus, which talked about all the sadistic ways to torture and murder people who didn't measure up to the Bible's standards or whatnot.
The only thing I know about the Old Testament is that you're not supposed to eat shellfish.
Right, but when somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to go Old Testament on your ass," that means they're going to like, "Oh, prepare! I'm going to go nuclear. I'm going to get out your rain of hellfire's coming," that kind of thing.
Like
so,
blow torches and pliers?
Possibly. And so, given Roy is the way that he is,
yes.
Like, for instance, the fact that he sees it, the girl was totally beat up, this young couple, strangled even, and he's like, well, did you upset him? Or like, that was his first thought. Not what, and granted, he did have his deputy put the guy in the chokehold, but it's like, and he did splash the hot coffee in the guy's face, but it wasn't until after she explained what happened.
Yeah.
And then he says, he gives her some advice, and he's like, try that, and, we'll check in a couple days. So that's what I mean when I think he's a bit ridiculous, because it's like, you're sheriff of a county. You got elected to uphold the law, and this is how you go around treating people. And the fact that nobody in the diner seems phased by the fact that he's asking, like, total immediate first thing is to put the blame on her, and it's like nobody in the diner cares. And
But
so that's why
it's
ridiculous.
This is why I likened him to Lord Summerisle as being a person who was in charge of his particular place of land. And that, I think, is cemented by the FBI agents coming in and being like, you don't do anything. And he's like, I do fucking plenty. I don't think he's ridiculous. I think he's a terrifying figure. And one of my concerns now, and you brought it to my mind, Kat, is what if he gets shot in the face in like the 4th episode?
I thought Ben would have brought that to mind when he said, I got shot in the face. But I'm wondering what, I mean, Stark County, I looked it up. It's like another flat, empty county in North Dakota. Like, what would be going on there that the FBI would even care to go out there? I mean, granted, it's not that far from Fargo to there, but like, what was he
Taxes?
not enforcing, or what was he letting get away that the FBI would even bother going out there to pay him a visit? So that's another thing. Like, is he involved in some kind of contraband, some kind of scams or whatnot? So we'll see what's going on there.
I would say
He
that
did hire a couple of kidnappers and who,
yeah,
so
that's what I would say. It seems like he has a bit of a syndicate going on.
Yes, it does, for sure. Something, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you're willing to continue on this journey? You're enjoying it?
Oh, of course. This is really fun for the beginning of a show. And I like that. I mean, it had a big ensemble, sort of, but they only showed, but they did it better. Like, season 4, the premiere was over long because
Never
there were
saw it.
so many characters they were bringing in. And it was a bit trying. And it's like, this didn't do that. Like, again, they didn't introduce John Hamm really properly until the second episode.
Which I thought was, for me, anticipation.
Right. Whereas season 4, it was just like they were introducing like something like 30 characters all at once. And it was like, come on, this is too much. Whereas season 5, it's like, no, we're going to pace it properly and we're going to reveal the characters as they need to be in the story. We're not just going to say, oh, here's this guy over here or that guy over there, and we'll worry about how they tie together later on. It's like, no. So already I think it's back to some basics. I like that they're back up in Minnesota instead of Kansas City. I like that it's modern day instead of not that I have anything against the period setting of 1950 Kansas City, but I like that we're back in the, like, kind of like in the vein of season 1. This seems to be a story that's going to be more about characters. It's not going to be about the mob or crime families or corporate raiders or all the mob stuff in season 4. It looks like it's going to be about just deep relationships between people. Like, obviously Roy feels very strongly about being slighted by Dot for leaving him, and she
did you ever get any Kill Bill vibes?
Like, from her?
No, from like Roy being Bill. It's him coming back to he's gonna kill her because this isn't him being sadistic. This is him being masochistic.
No, because Bill seemed like a much more laid back kind of guy, even when he and the bride finally meet in the movie.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't picture that Roy would be that laid back if the kidnappers had succeeded in bringing her to him.
Do you think Dot and Roy are going to meet?
It's a good question, because if you're going to tease the who we think is the main villain of the series with a No Country for Old Men vibe, they might not meet. That could happen.
It is true.
But we'll see. I would hope so, but I wonder what the power dynamic will be by the time they do meet. Or another thing, when Lorraine finds out what's actually going on and that wasn't an assuming she finds out that it wasn't an extortionist attempt, will she and Dot kind of see more eye to eye? Will something change there in the relationship? Maybe not. But that's something else to think about. So see, it's already getting me to think about all kinds of, or what will happen with the hapless Wayne? Will he become the new Lester Nygaard and find a spine, and then instead of being evil, become something the opposite? Instead of becoming supremely evil, become supremely good and worthwhile and able to defend his wife and his kid? Or is he just gonna be the totally hapless milquetoast guy for the whole season?
I've seen some horrible things in trailers that happened to Wayne, and I'm not looking forward to it. But also, I did want to point out that when they tend to, oh my stars, State Trooper Whit Farr, the way that they stop the bleeding on his leg is with what? An ice scraper.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I like that as a reference, not only to the movie, but also to season 1, where Milos Stavros. I always get this Greek stuff. It's all Greek to me. But yeah, no, I like the incorporation of the ice scraper again.
Yes.
Well, Kat, do you have anything else that you would like to add to this particular conversation about episodes 1 and 2 of Fargo season 5?
No, but I love all the different things that I wasn't even planning to think, like things from just talking to you right now, thinking all these ideas coming to my head spontaneously as we talk. So that's what I like.
Water cooler television show, yo.
Yeah, so I look forward to seeing where this goes.
Yes, as am I. I can't wait. It'll probably end around my birthday. When does it end?
It ends January 16th.
Oh my God. You know what? I have a dentist appointment that day. I'm not kidding. I'll be here. It'll be in the afternoon. I'll be here at night. So anyway, no, I'll have new teeth that day. It'll be great.
And for those following along, watching either now or later, the show will continue on Thursday nights at 7 as our usual time slot. Thanksgiving is over with. So yes.
Yeah, on the Fantasmagorium show. And yeah, like, subscribe, share on the X, tell your friends. We should probably look into what Rumble is at some point.
Yes,
but yeah. Well, thank you again, Kat. This has been great. I love it. We were going to do true crime, but we decided on fake crime instead. So
crime is fun.
I guess this is when you do the sign off catchphrase. I'll see you next week.
Oh, you betcha. Yeah.